Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of the American Huddle. I'm Hali alongside Andy Gresh. We're heading into week 13 of the college football season. It's hard to believe it. Some exciting games to look forward to this week, but also kind of sad. You feel this whole thing coming to a close, but we're in for some great football this week.
We are, and it feels like the season has just gone by like that. It's like, oh, it's Labor Day, the season's here, it's Thanksgiving, it's time to eat, and it's almost over with. But I think what we're going to have is not only a great American Conference Championship game, but in essence, Haley, the playoffs start this week for teams in the American.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. The marquee matchup of the week, of course, UCF versus USF. It feels like we've been waiting for this game to sort of take place for a while. But speaking of the top contenders in this conference, what needed to happen sort of happened this last week in terms of claiming spots in the championship and sort of setting up this last week of the college football season. Memphis able to claim the West Division title and secure their spot. They don't know where they're playing yet, still could be hosting, but sort of some of the things that will be determined here, hopefully on Friday. So looking back to last week, UCF actually had a chance to claim the East Division title on Thursday night if USF had lost to Tulsa, but the Bulls were able to escape and hang on in the end, 27-20 over the Golden Hurricane on senior night. It wasn't a pretty game for the Bulls. A couple of turnovers, but Charlie Strong's group was able to hang on, and they're still alive in this race.
Yeah, defensively, we talked about how much better Charlie Strong would make them this year. And look, they're better defensively, there's no question. In fact, they're the #1 total defense in the American Athletic Conference. But, you know, issues in the quarterback play. Tulsa really brought it, I thought, and challenged USF in a way where they got down. They had to battle through some adversity. But USF has done what they've done all year long. They've found a way to win football games. Whether they're blowing people out or whether they're playing close, they've shown the same kind of guts that UCF has shown. And good for Charlie Strong. He's picked up where Willie Taggart left off, and he's got them with a chance to play for a conference title.
Well, it's a good thing for that USF defense and the reigning defensive player of the week, actually, in Augie Sanchez. He's had a great career and just a great season in his senior year, but they're going to really need that defense this week against a UCF offense who had no trouble putting up points this past week against Temple. Andy, the Knights able to win that one 45-19. Milton accounted for 5 touchdowns. He only played 3 quarters.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how when UCF gets rolling, they're a wagon. And I thought they would end up leaning on Temple a little bit. They did there towards the end. But UCF has done everything asked of them, Haley, and that's the thing that drives me nuts relative to the college football playoff. They beat everyone on their schedule. What more can they do? Now it's a matchup against USF to head to the American Championship game where Memphis will be waiting, and at least there are some numbers beside their names that the rest of these people who are missing the boat on UCF can put them into the top 10 or maybe even higher over the next couple of weeks as things shake out across the country.
Well, you mentioned Memphis, and we talked about how they were able to punch their ticket to the American Championship game representing that West Division. The Tigers, they had to play a pretty tough team in the process to do so. They faced some weather, they faced some delays, but the Tigers able to beat SMU at home 66-45. And I think what really stands out is that all of their major weapons really contributed in that game, from Riley Ferguson to Anthony Miller, Darrell Henderson. They all really played big parts.
Yeah, and look, Memphis, I've questioned their defense all year. I don't think defensively they're great. However, offensively, they've been among the top of the league in terms of all different kinds of statistical categories. It's an interesting battle for, I think, first-team All-American Athletic Conference at the quarterback spot. You know, you've got Mackenzie Milton, who's played great, but you have Riley Ferguson as well, who's been able to handle his business at Memphis. And look, Mike Norvell is one of the hottest head coaches in the country. I think we know people are going to knock on the door, but what he's done at Memphis is sort of picked up where Justin Fuente left off and has added to it. They've got a chance to maybe end up in a New Year's Six Bowl if they win the American. Norvell's done a fantastic job down there.
Well, Memphis certainly has their eyes on a greater prize this year, the championship game coming up here in just about a week or so, and then obviously hoping for that New Year's Six game. But Andy, a team that I'm really excited to talk to you about is Tulane.
Really?
A couple weeks ago, they won in overtime at East Carolina. This week at home, they're able to pull off the win over Houston, 20-17. They are sitting at 5 wins. Heading into Week 13, they play at SMU this weekend. Can Willie Fritz's group become bowl eligible?
Well,
this is exciting stuff.
Haley, they can, yes. I don't know if they're going to be able to because, as we have noted over the past couple of weeks, SMU, is an ascending team here in the American Athletic Conference. And here's the thing that stood out to me. When I go and check the American Conference notes, I see Tulane on the road this year, 1-4. SMU at home, 5-1. That right there tells me all that I need to know. SMU has kind of put their flag in the ground. They're defending the home field. And for Tulane, they got to go on the road and get a win. You know, I thought they could have gotten a few earlier this year or 1 or 2 along the way. Now they're in a do-or-die situation if they want to go bowling. I think Willie Fritz has done a great job there, but so has Chad Morris. That SMU program has kicked up a notch. 2
programs that we've watched week in and week out really take the next step, and what a cap that would be for Willie Fritz in just year 2 to get the Green Wave to a bowl game. So we'll have to wait until Saturday to see if they can get it done. But speaking of this week, we have a whole lot coming up. It's Thanksgiving week, of course, so 2 things you need to do this week. Eat turkey on Thursday, and then you're going to have to eat some more turkey on Friday because no one should leave their couches unless you're going to the game, of course. UCF, USF, the marquee matchup of the week, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. This thing is for all the marbles. What are you looking forward to most in this game?
I am looking for a battle of the quarterbacks, quite honestly. I think it comes down to whether Mackenzie Milton or Quentin Flowers plays better. And that doesn't mean that Flowers ain't going to put up some numbers or Milton isn't going to put up some numbers, but it's about the turnovers and it's about that short yardage and red zone execution. That's where these quarterbacks, because of their abilities to move, can really make the biggest impact. And to me, whichever quarterback plays better wins. Personally, I think UCF train, it is rolling down the tracks. I think everyone at UCF is eminently aware of the opportunity in front of them. And there's a lot of stuff swirling around Scott Frost right now, but at the end of the day, these kids at UCF have followed the path. They've listened to the coach. They're right where they want to be. They're 2 wins away from being undefeated and people having to make choices as to what bowl game they're going to play. And I think they really rally around their coach. It doesn't mean there isn't a connection with South Florida players to Charlie Strong, but I think that extra year, Scott Frost has really been able to, in a good way, infect their brains with the toughness, the grit, and the heart that they played with this year. So I think it comes down to the quarterbacks. I think both are going to play well. One's going to play a little bit better, and that's going to be a difference in the game.
Well, I don't think we could have asked for a better matchup to close out the regular season, 10-0 versus 9-1. And you mentioned the battle of the quarterbacks. So let's really break this thing down a little bit because obviously for USF, Quentin Flowers, he's a senior, he's a veteran on this team, and this is a guy who had a lot of Heisman Trophy conversations surrounding him in the beginning of the year. But this offense has looked a lot different this year. And I think looking back to senior night on Thursday against Tulsa, he looked a little bit frustrated. I don't think he had the game that he would have liked to close out the year at Raymond James Stadium. So how do you think that impact and maybe just the emotions of this final game in conference play? This team has never won a conference title. He's had to see a whole lot. How do you think that kind of plays into this game?
Well, I think that when you compound the fact that he's a senior, his story is very unique. He's a guy who's had a bunch of family issues that have been well chronicled, and he's still found a way to persevere, and he's put himself on the radar of going to the National Football League, whether it's playing quarterback or maybe ultimately getting moved to another position. So I think when you combine the fact that it's his last chance to win a championship, and let's remember, by the way, this is just to win one of the divisions. You then still have to go play a week later and win a conference title. So it just doesn't come this week, but I think Quentin Flowers is going to be up for the challenge. And you mentioned that the offense is a little different this year. I wonder if they go back to some of the older stuff to where they say, you know what, Q, you can win us this football game. We're going to give you the opportunity to go do it. And that includes running those option plays and getting him out there in the run game. I think he's going to show up. I think he's going to play well. I just don't know if the people around Quentin Flowers will have the same kind of impact that the people around Mackenzie Milton will have.
So you've spent a lot of time this season talking about how impressed you've been with Charlie Strong's defense.
Yes.
But they are going against what is the top offense in the nation, scoring over 48 points per game. Can Charlie Strong's group contain them?
I think they can hold the number down a little bit, maybe to the mid-30s. I think if it gets to 40, then we've got a problem. But yes, they can slow them down, but let's just call UCF what they are. They're a juggernaut, they're a wagon, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's the wide receivers on the outside, their ability to run the football from anywhere on the field. I just think that's an operation and an offensive operation that's playing with great confidence. The quarterback knows exactly what he's doing on every play, and that doesn't mean that others don't. It means that UCF knows and they're still going out and executing. And I just think that if we pulled the quarterbacks out of it and we analyze the other 10 guys, that's, to me, where UCF has at least a little bit of an advantage, and especially along that offensive line. That's why I kind of bumped them up. But let's make no mistake about it. UCF, if they win 2 more games, has done everything they can to put themselves in a position to get a crack at a quote-unquote P6 big boy. And I do the whole quote-unquote because I wonder about the screwy committee and the playoff voting and all that kind of stuff. But I couldn't be more impressed with UCF. They're going to have a challenge against this USF defense, but I think they're ready for it. They've taken on all comers, whether on the road or at home.
Well, you mentioned UCF, and I think that one thing that has really stuck out about them this year is just their consistency on both sides of the ball. I mean, they really have taken care of each opponent. You haven't really had those close games, those nail biters. Are they going to pull through today? They've really just been solid throughout. And I think for their defense, I mean, they forced 5 turnovers against Temple and were able to capitalize off of all of those. This is a team, USF, who had a couple of turnovers against Tulsa last week. So, I mean, for USF's offense to do what we've seen them do in the past is going to be pretty difficult.
They got to run the ball, and that's the thing, and that's where Quentin Flowers for USF can make a difference in the run game. We know they're going to turn around and hand it off, but what can Flowers add? And let's remember, there's also the broken plays, too. You drop back to pass on 3rd and 8, and there's nothing there. Are you able to wiggle out of the pocket and get yourself a first down? That's where the quarterbacks can really make a big difference in this game. But look, I think both schools have had this circled from the beginning of the year, regardless of the record. It's a rivalry game. Now you throw into it that it's for an Eastern Division championship, and then the winner gets to go play Memphis for a conference title. I mean, you've just cranked up the stakes. It's everything everyone at the American Athletic Conference could have hoped for. I think it's set up perfectly for not only a great Friday game, but a great championship game.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you about this matchup, and I feel it here as we're talking about all of the implications of this game, let's list them all out. You have the War on I-4 trophy. These schools are about 100 miles apart, so big rivalry game just by itself. You have the East Division title on the line as a berth into the American Championship game, and you're talking about then the New Year's Six after that. So there's all these different things kind of weighing on the minds, and you need to win this game to have a chance at any of the 3. So if you're a coach of either of these 2 teams, how do you kind of reel the guys in and just kind of, I don't know, not tune that stuff out, I guess. I don't know. It's tough.
I mean, look, I think that you acknowledge the elephant in the room, that is, you got a chance to go play for a championship, but you remind them that this rivalry still means something. Hali, it's not very often that you play trophy games. And there's normally one on everybody's schedule in terms of the rivalry game. It just happens to have the extra layer of stakes added to it, to where, if you're one of the coaches, you're saying, hey, listen, this is, the battle for I-4. We understand the other stuff, but let's walk out of here with a trophy. We walk out of here with a trophy, everything else takes care of itself. You win a trophy, then you have a chance to go win another trophy, and then you get to a big bowl game and have a chance to win another trophy. So it's that time of year.
It sort of feels like all or nothing.
It really does. No, I mean, think about the loser in this game. Even if it's Central Florida, they're not making it to the American Conference Championship game. People will look at them very differently because of the one loss. So in a lot of ways, UCF maybe has more at stake until you look at it and say, this is a trophy game against our rival. Let's just focus on that.
All right. Well, you won't want to miss that one. Again, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. A ton of eyes on this game all across the country, but a few other games to get to on Saturday as well. It's a good thing we got football all weekend long. I love it. And there's nothing better Thanksgiving week.
Oh, I agree.
Watching football, being lazy.
Right, because who wants to go
bit of work too?
Right, who wants to go do the leaves, for crying out loud? I'm going to watch college football all
Stay
day.
inside where it's safe. But talking about Saturday, a game that actually you know, Memphis has won the West Division title already, but a game that could play and be a factor is ECU versus Memphis. If USF is to win on Friday, this game actually has a lot of significance because Memphis would have to win this game to host the championship. So a loss against ECU and a USF East Division crown for USF. We're headed to Tampa. I know I probably just confused you, but Memphis needs to beat ECU.
No, it's real simple. No, but I hear what you're saying, but look, Memphis will be able to operate with knowledge. They'll know who would have won UCF, USF, so they will know going in if hosting the conference championship game is at stake. Look, I think ECU is one of those teams that's on the rise. Scotty Montgomery's done a good job. They got a lot of talent, speed on the outside. They will challenge the Memphis defense. It's going to be like any other Memphis game, quite honestly, Haley. They're going to have to go in and say, we got to get to 35 to be able to win. And then if we have to go higher, we have the ability to do that. But in the end of the day, whether it is for home field or not, I expect Memphis to handle their business because that's what championship teams do. They don't get there and then say, well, we're going to back off the accelerator here. For them to really warrant, if they win the American Conference Championship, they want to be able to say, as a one-loss team, we deserve to be in a New Year's Six Bowl. So handling their business this week against ECU is in accordance with getting to where they want to be.
Well, that could be a very important game for the Tigers, but as you mentioned, that they will know their situation on Friday heading into that game, what needs to happen. But you have to imagine Coach Norvell would like a win regardless.
Oh, yeah, it's all about the New Year's Six as well. You can't slip up on your way to winning a conference title and expect to get there.
All right, well, a couple of other important games that I do want to mention. We touched on it a little bit. Tulane versus SMU, a chance to become bowl eligible under Willie Fritz in his second year, but also for Temple. They hit the road to Tulsa, another 5-win team, and Jeff Collins in his first year as the head coach there, rather. Can Temple become bowl eligible, you think?
Yes, and I think they will. I like their matchup against Tulsa, and to give Tulsa a ton of credit, they played USF tough, as we already acknowledged. But Jeff Collins and crew, he's trying to put his stamp on that program. And again, let's remember, it's more than just the changeover at head coach. There was a lot of guys over the last 2 years who've left that Temple program, who were a part of building it to be Temple strong. So there is a little bit of a changeover going there. And I think if Jeff Collins can get them to 6-6, which I think they're going to get to, another bowl eligible team, they've got a chance to go play somebody. Who cares if it's in the middle of December? You're still going bowling, and it keeps the momentum going in the Temple program, even with all of the changeover that's gone on there. I think Jeff Collins has done a good job because I don't think we put enough stock into all of the player changes that's gone on in that program in the last 2 years.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few faces at the quarterback position this year, but I think in the end, just got to clean up the turnovers. Tough to win a ball game when you're turning the ball over.
And I think that whenever you're young at quarterback or inexperienced at quarterback, that's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, a couple of exciting games, potential for two teams to reach bowl eligibility in the American. And let's talk a little bit about the big picture. Memphis is in the championship, as we've stated, and USF or UCF. So no matter who Memphis plays in that championship game, in your opinion, no matter who it is, does the champion deserve to be in that New Year's Six bowl game?
Yes, absolutely. Now, look, I mentioned the caveat. Memphis loses to ECU and then they turn around and beat either UCF or USF, then probably not. I don't think you can have two losses. If you're an undefeated UCF, I think the narrative is wide open in terms of where they should be and what level of team they should get a crack at. But look, at the end of the day, UCF, USF, and Memphis, if it's one loss or zero losses and they're not in the New Year's Six, then there needs to be some sort of investigation. They have earned the right there. And I think what we've seen, Haley, is ever since the college football playoff and the New Year's Six, the American Athletic Conference has represented itself very well. There's a reason that we and others talk about a Power Six because the American Athletic Conference is right there. They're, to me, going to get one of those spots. And if UCF ends up with a 0 in the right-hand column at the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of narrative as to at what point does the American get more respect.
All right, well, I want to throw a curveball at you because speaking of respect, so get ready.
There we go.
All right, so beginning in the preseason, I should say, we mentioned Quentin Flowers and a little bit of that Heisman Trophy conversation surrounding him. Why do you think, or do you think rather, that Mackenzie Milton should have be in that Heisman Trophy conversation? Is it because he doesn't have enough merit yet, hasn't been around long enough? But this guy is having one of the best seasons in college football.
Look, I agree with you, and I think he should be in the mix. Here's the problem, is that when it comes to the national perception, there are going to be people that are going to say, okay, what did UCF do against the quote-unquote bad teams or the teams with a losing record? And they're going to see all these great stats. And they're going to say, well, he got X amount of his stats against teams that were below 500, and there's nothing Mackenzie Milton can really do there. All he can do is handle his own play. But I think there are writers across the country and people who vote for the Heisman who try to dig deep on reasons not to vote for people. With what happened with Baker Mayfield over the weekend, people are going to use that against him. People are going to use the schedule against Mackenzie Milton. People are going to look at the kid from Stanford and say, hey, you know what? It's the Pac-12. How good was the Pac-12 ultimately this year? So I think at the end of the day, what you have to do is survive those people who try to find the negative. And I just don't know if enough people will give Mackenzie Milton the respect he deserves to be, in the Final Five, which I think is reasonable for him.
Well, depending on how UCF finishes out this year, obviously still a lot of potential to capture some pretty big headlines. So maybe he is in the conversation at the beginning of next season.
Hey,
so
let's look at it this way. He has a big game against USF. It's the whole, wow, look at what he did. He's on the radar. And then maybe something for the American Conference Championship game. Maybe he's one of those dudes with a late push. Because, Haley, look, in terms of the Heisman, I think it's wide open. Early on it was Saquon Barkley. I don't even know if he's going to be a finalist now, quite honestly. So it's wide open. We'll see what the voters do. The constituency is a little different. I mean, you've got a wide variety of age groups, but I think you got a lot of people in that voting pool for the Heisman who want to find everything wrong with someone so that they can validate their vote and say, yes, I looked at all the bad stuff. This is why I ruled someone out. This is why I put someone in. It's a little goofy, but hey, it's the system. And a lot of times it's the final 2 weeks of the year that cement someone's foundation for the Heisman. So it isn't over yet for Milton.
Well, either way, he's had a phenomenal season, just a sophomore. So some good things for him to come in the coming years at UCF.
And Haley, I think he will ultimately be the first team American the first team American all.
There you go.
There we go.
There we go. We know what you're saying.
Here we go. First team All-American Athletic Conference. There we go. I finally got it out.
Got it.
He's played fantastic this year. Riley Ferguson is right behind him, but Milton is the guy for me who's kind of just been a cut above.
All right, well, just to recap it all so that there's no confusion, heading into these last few days of the college football regular season, if UCF beats USF on Friday, UCF will host Memphis. If USF beats UCF on Friday and Memphis beats ECU and is the higher team ranked in the college football playoff rankings, Memphis will host USF. If USF beats UCF and Memphis loses on Saturday, USF will host Memphis. So those are the three scenarios heading into the last week of the season. It's going to be a good one, and I'm excited because, well, I'm not excited that it's coming to an end because I'm really going to miss having you in here talking about
I'm
football.
sure you will.
But next week we have some really good stuff on tap after all of this is decided. Andy and myself are going to be announcing this year's Players of the Year and all conference teams coming for you on Wednesday. So you'll want to tune into that. This guy is going to break down all the top performers in the league this year. So that'll be great. And we're going to have championship coverage. So we're going to preview that championship match, whoever is in it. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty, really break it all down. So a couple episodes of the American Huddle coming your way next week.
Yeah, it's very cool. And look, at the end of the day, win and don't worry about it. That's the real message for Memphis, USF, and UCF. Just win and everything will take care of itself.
All right. Well, thank you, Andy. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah, boy.
This is your favorite. This is like one of your favorite holidays.
Look,
you've been talking about recipes all day long.
I love the holidays.
Oh,
of course, I came in and was waxing poetic about mashed potatoes and things like that. But yes, this is like the best.
I'm going to give them your secret.
Well, listen, I want you to use my secret first and then report back to me and tell me. There we go. Exactly. Yes. You don't get to be this size without being a good cook. So let's just put it that way. But at the end of the day, I love the holidays. It's so much fun. And I've already got like senioritis. Like I'm already thinking about Thanksgiving as we tape this, so I should probably shut up. However,
you ready for the school bell to ring so you can like run
I am.
out the
I
door
totally
and head
am.
home?
That half day, right?
Half day.
And you have the assembly from like 10 to noon that you just skip out on and say to heck with it. Not that I'm encouraging truancy.
Goodness gracious.
But it's, come on, it's, I mean, what is it? It's normally like, what, the band, right? Like they go in there and play a little bit, and then there's some sort of play from like
the band. I have to tell you, that's not something I'm skipping out.
Wait a minute.
Those guys bring it. Women and men bring it.
So
they're all over.
Yeah, I'm just stunned that you're with the band
band
nerds.
is the foundation of a great college football atmosphere.
Wow.
That's my true belief.
Oh my gosh.
What's missing in the NFL? Bands.
Bands.
The band. Yep. Total game changer.
You know what? See, now I'm completely stunned because this is almost like another edition of the
show
American.
ends.
But this is another edition. We need to do another edition here of this. But wow. Okay.
Sleep on that. Sleep on that.
Yeah, I'll have to because I don't know. I always looked for the band kid to like block someone into. Like there'd be a kid standing on the sidelines and I'd be like running someone to the net and getting a little push there, and then all of a sudden they topple over a tuba player or something like that, and you kind of watch them all go down like bowling pins.
You know, but
that's the football player in me.
The band, they didn't pump you up on the field. They didn't, you know, the noise, the sound.
I ignored everything. Okay. Other than my mother yelling at me from the stands for doing something wrong. That's the only thing I heard.
That's why most people need the band, so they can tune their parents out.
Yeah, I guess so. That is true. But
all right,
look, regardless, band, cheerleaders, it's Thanksgiving, it's football, it's fun, and I can't wait because I think we're going to have a heck of an American championship game.
It's going to be a great final week of the season. I think there's no question surrounding that. So we want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving as well. And thank you so much for sticking around with us all year. It's been so much fun, and we're looking forward to the fun continuing here in these last few weeks as it all comes to a close. So enjoy that turkey. I personally am a big fan of the leftovers. I think like day 2 is money, and I think that's where you capitalize on all of it. So
I think, judging by my size, you can tell I like it all.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you back here next week. Again, a couple episodes of the American Huddle your way, all surrounding championship week. On behalf of Andy Gresh, I'm Hali Outen. Happy Thanksgiving.